And the title is, I'm leaving postdoc early for an industry job, currently interviewing, but no commitment yet. Should I talk to my PI about it? Feeling sneaky and duplicitous, need advice. All right, so Lousy Guest says, I've been in my postdoc for barely a year. I don't want to run a lab, so I'm interviewing for jobs. Since I'm mostly remote, I can do it from home. But I haven't told anyone about it. I don't think I need to unless I commit to a job. But I feel badly about it, especially planning future experiments that I know I won't do. I think this is where academia is really different than industry. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. Because PIs are supposed to help you take the right next step, versus you wouldn't ask your boss for help finding you a new job. But I feel like this is even different than typical because I barely know the PI/lab I'm ducking out early. And I'm ducking out early. Should I have this conversation anyway? Thanks. Yeah, so this is tricky, right? We want to think of postdocs as a normal job, and it is in a way, right? The PI is your boss. You're there to do a job. You're there to be professional and do your job. And you also want to respect your PI and your lab mates, and at the same time, it's also seen as a training opportunity for you, in addition to a job. So I understand where this user is coming from, Lousy Guest. It's tricky, right? And I think it was really called out in this line here that says, I think this is where academia is really different than industry because PIs are supposed to help you take the right next step. And I think that's the expectation of PIs, and I think that's true. In industry, you are lucky, at least from my experience and the people I talk to, you're lucky if you have a boss that is willing to help you figure out and navigate the next steps. And, I'm grateful that I had a boss for many years and a company that was somewhat helpful. Obviously they're not going out of their way to find new jobs for me, but I felt comfortable speaking about what I liked or what I didn't like and what my goals were for that position and my progression throughout the company. So, if you're able to find the right place in industry, that's not necessarily true that they're not willing or looking forward to helping you, especially as you develop those professional experiences. But, that's a little discretion there. So, should I have this conversation anyway? Let's look at a top post. Let's look at what other people were saying, right? So one of the top comments was, at the end of the day, a postdoc is a job. The PI is your employer before anything else. And I think that's kind of true. Don't assume they will be a supportive mentor. As with any other job, employers may make your experience unpleasant if they know you're actively shopping for another job. I'd suggest not letting them know of your intentions until after you've secured a job offer elsewhere. I think this is on point. I think this is pretty much what most people would say. I think it's accurate. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I highlighted the PI is your employer before anything else, and that's true. Obviously, again, based on what I mentioned before, those lines kind of blur a little bit, but in general, yeah, that's true. Let's look at another comment here. So there's another top comment, and I just pulled a couple of the top comments I saw online. So this situation is no different than the one you'll face many more times in your working life whenever you are interviewing for the next job. Do the job you have now and interview for the next job without feeling guilty. Yes, I think that's very important. You have to know, this is your life, right? And you've got your one shot. And the more time you feel bad about taking care of your own needs and your own life and your own career, the more time wasted, I think, and the more energy that just goes downhill. Who knows? Maybe you'll get... Who knows? Maybe you won't get a job you prefer to your current research. Maybe lots of things. People change jobs all the time. For that matter, people lose jobs all the time through no fault of their own without any recourse. It's not wrong to look out for your own career. Yes, I should have highlighted that too. Your PI will find someone to replace you. True. People leave academia. People leave jobs, the world still turns, and it's weird, right? Because especially in academia, you take on so much of a project or a set of experiments or a paper on your own, right? It feels like it's in your court, and who's going to continue that work if not you? Who's going to find that next step in the biological process or the literature research if not you, the person who knows maybe the most about it in the world? And I think that's maybe where it feels a little different in industry, right? And obviously industry is a broad term, but a lot of times you're working with a team, or you have time and other participants in your group that will they'll carry it on because there's some kind of contract involved, right? There's some need to get it done. But when it comes to academic research in particular, right, there's not necessarily a contract. There's maybe expectations, sure, and you were hired maybe to continue a work or fill out an arc of research that you wanted to at the time, and then you decided against it. And maybe that work won't be continued in the way, and that can be a sad part about leaving academia, right? You might leave and no one it's possible that no one will take over that work in the same way. And I think that's just something we have to accept. I think that's life, right? And I do like that Marine Prof down here said this is wise, right? I think it's true. And I just add another top comment here. So a postdoc is a job. Academia is a job. Okay. These jobs and institutions are not committed to us. True. One helpful thing to remember, there are many, many qualified people eager to take your place. Yes, that's true. And I think that's probably more true in industry, possibly. Depending on what job you do, but academia can be so niched down, right? Like if you need a postdoc to find the genetics of a very particular process or pathway, you have to find the postdoc that's interested in that for the development of their own career. Meanwhile, in industry, you kind of have more say of telling what the employees what to do. So take it or leave it. The academic job market is brutal in almost every field. We are all very replaceable. Wow, that's a little icky, but yeah, sure. Probably true. Your PI knows this. They'll likely feel temporary annoyance about whatever steps they have to take to find your replacement, but it's part of the job. They won't have any strong feelings about you in particular, especially if you barely know each other. True. Let's talk about that in a second. Moreover, a postdoc is by definition temporary. Also very true. Man, I think there was a time in which postdocs were, meant to be for like just a couple of years. And I think obviously with, at least in the fields I'm used to, that time is expanded to like, I don't want to get it wrong, but I mean, I knew postdocs when I was in academia who had been there in the same position for 6, 7, 8 years, more than that even. So continuing on, some other people have given the right advice. Continue doing your job well while interviewing for other jobs. Inform your PI when you've signed a new contract. Presumably your new job won't start right away, so you can be generous and continue at the lab for a few weeks to wrap some things up to the extent possible. Good luck. One thing I'll say is that, the presumably your new job won't start right away, that's not necessarily true. You don't want to presume that, because there can be times where, you get a job offer and they're like, okay, can you start next week? Or can you start within 2 weeks? And, generally acceptable, right? At least in the industry, is giving 2 weeks notice. That's I think, bare minimum. It really depends on your work situation and how well you understand your group and the company you're working with. A lot of people would want to give a little bit more time than that, and some people would rather just like say, hey, I'm leaving right now. I'm walking out the door and you'll never see me again. And that depends on, how many bridges you want to burn, what your relationships are like, and how you like your colleagues. If you really enjoy your coworkers, maybe that's not a great way to say bye. And obviously, something on you is to understand what your needs are in that department. So the last words here say good luck. And I think I agreed with most of these comments here. Just to wrap it up, these are jobs. These are all jobs. And your job is not your life. Your life is partly your job, but partly the rest of your life. And so you got to make sure you incorporate them in the right way. You don't want to have all of your energy sucked out by your job. And you also want to make sure that, you aren't just burning those bridges and you're setting yourself up for just increasingly better positions along the way. And I don't mean like a job title position. I just mean situating yourself in such a way that when it comes time to start your new job and leave your old job, that you feel comfortable and you feel ready to do so. And it might not always be perfect, but as long as you know that you did what you felt you should do, that's the best. So I would say, if you can give the appropriate amount of notice, for me, it feels more like 3 to 4 weeks, but that really just depends on what your situation is. And, especially if you're not close to this PI, don't go crazy about it. It happens. And especially if you're not close to this PI and maybe it's a larger lab and they probably have some turnover, just good luck. You've got this. Don't dwell on it too much. You've got it. You got it, buddy. All right.